Okay, we're in week number 9, meaning we have 6 more weeks. Okay? So literally, by this time, you really have to think about how you are going to put everything together for your portfolio site. And eventually, we're going to talk about like website. Okay? And there are many different ways to use the website as a vehicle to like deliver your work to like your audience. And this is a kind of critical time for you to think about whether you're going to use websites such as WordPress or Wix. So there are many options. So try to think about what you really want to do. Okay? So if you are an artist, you can possibly use artisan site or some existing web platform to post your work. But there are pros and cons to do that. So try to think about your options and try to stick with the best thing. And few things I have to say. If you go to unit number 3, and there's unit 3 reference content. So mainly we talked about this like narrative design, demo reel guideline. Okay? And then there are 2 videos. Okay? There's building a camera rig and editing demo reel using Adobe Premiere. So these are things you can watch, okay, in order to create your demo reel for your portfolio. Okay? So this one created by Professor Eric Pisciani. So this one's only like 9 minutes, 30 seconds, 23 seconds. So you can watch it to create basic rig for your 3D model. And this one is Adobe Premiere tutorial. I have to check. I don't think we do have Adobe Premiere in Computer Labs. And if you want to create this, you can purchase Adobe CC. I think subscription fee is $29, $29.99 per month. And or you can get, I think now you can only get like 7 days free trial version. So 7 days probably not enough time. Another thing you can do, if you use 2001, there's Final Cut Pro. You can use Final Cut Pro to create simple editing, simple demo reel. I'll try to kind of check what we have in 2001, and if it's necessary, I'm going to create simple tutorial on Final Cut Pro, so that you can use computers in 2001 and create your demo reel. But sometimes you can literally use any software you can use. Okay? So for instance, this is Camtasia, which is a screen capture software, and it does basically the simple editing, and then you can possibly put some little effect or little transition to create your title pages and etc. Okay? And then Kaltura, you can possibly add simple title, or you can simply add a one frame images. So there are many options you can do. Okay? So you can definitely think about using some other software. I mean, Adobe Premiere is good, but if not, I think we bought like 5 copies of Adobe Premiere, but I'm not 100% sure, so I'll check and let you know. And another announcement, next week, I'm not going to be here. So I know you guys like it, yes. I will ask you to watch this few video basically this one, Killer Portfolio or Portfolio Killer, a device from industry artist in 2017 GDC. So this one basically they're talking about like how to create what's like a kind of good portfolio they're looking for. And then if you have time, like there's 2018, kind of same people showed up and then do the same thing again. And how many of you guys attended this resume workshop last Friday? I think I saw a few people here, okay, from this class. So I'm going to post this video. Okay. So Kayla Harris is our graduate student, and she was actually my student before, and she's now the game designer at Big Hughes Game. So she came here to talk about like what's the good resume or how she actually got that job. And then we're going to have one more workshop, possibly end of November before Thanksgiving. So try to attend, and then I think it was pretty good. It was well attended, and then of course for a school event like this, we want to feed you, so we bought my pizza and soda. So try to come and try to get to know like what they're talking about. And she talked about pretty interesting stuff. Okay? And then it was interesting because she literally mentioned that like you actually one thing she mentioned was when you actually apply for a job or especially when you're in school, you are thinking you're competing against your classmates. But basically, she said, oh, actually, you're competing against maybe 1,000 people outside of school who will apply for that position. So you really have to think about the high quality portfolio you're going to present. And then you really have to think about whether how you are going to convince them to stay on your website and get to know your work. A lot of times, again, like we're thinking like, oh, I want to add this one, I want to add that one, I like that one, I like those things I did before. So a lot of times people have tendency to put everything in it, but again, like people actually don't, usually if they're not interested, they're not going to look at it and they will move on. Okay? So this one, I'm going to convert it, and then I just got her PowerPoint file. So I'm going to edit it together and post it on Blackboard so that you can watch it if you didn't come to that resume workshop. Okay. All right. And today, let's talk about this thing a little bit. Okay. How to present your portfolio. Fairly simple, straightforward presentation. So we'll just talk about this one and then I'll let you go. Okay, how to present your portfolio. Anyone knows what movie that image came from? Yes. But did it come out before you guys were born?
Yeah, pretty sure, yeah.
All right.
Let me check that.
Okay, how to present your portfolio. There are obviously many ways to present your work. Okay. So in person, okay, best case scenario has your employer looking over your portfolio with you. Okay. Have business cards printed with your URL on them. Clip another one to a printed copy of your resume and send an email to them with a link to the site ahead of time. Okay. So usually it's not going to happen, but this is kind of like the best case scenario. Like somehow, let's say you go to a game conference, game developers conference, and you get to know a few people, and then yeah, sometimes in our industry, yes, network is pretty important. So you are invited to visit their company and show your portfolio in person. Obviously, in this case, uh, you have to be ready. You have to know how to present yourself professionally, but at the same time, it's kind of good because you can explain things. Okay, and then obviously they will spend more time, okay, with you and on your portfolio. So this is a very rare case, but this is pretty good case and good scenario. And one thing you have to understand is in industry. If you happen to work at AAA studios, like later on, let's say you are going to work on one game project, which might take about like 3 years. Okay? And then what usually happens is after that development period is over, okay, the company actually try to shuffle their designers and developers and artists around for different project. So sometimes you're thinking, oh, I got this job at this AAA studios, and you're all happy, and then you think you are kind of set for the rest of your life. But then again, there is this awkward moment. Okay? After your project is done, you actually have to not necessarily formal interview to get a position, but you actually will be interviewed to be placed on the next project. So time to time, if you're animators, it's like more obvious. Let's say, I mean, if you work on like one of this, the Futurama season like 13, yes, your job is secure for that season basically. After that season, you have to get an interview again to whether you're going to stay on the season 14 or you go to some other project. So same thing as a game project. Okay? So what usually happens, yes, you will work for this particular project, but at the end, okay, they yes,
No.
well, yeah, they actually will kind of evaluate you and then place you for the different project, or it's kind of rare that they will kind of like they will terminate your contract. It rarely happens because they try to still use your talent. But if your portfolio isn't good enough, or if your performance evaluation isn't good enough, you might end up for the project that you don't like to work on, or you might just end up on a project that just for kind of not necessarily new project, or just managing old project. And for instance, Kayla Harris, like BQ's game, they are famous for these dominations, and then like they basically have different teams for different time era, and then like sometimes yes, you will get to work on like a new time era and then like create something new, but obviously there should be people who will work on kind of managing existing assets, existing time era to do kind of like a kind of mundane work. And then another thing I have to tell you is in person. Yeah, network is pretty important. Okay, sometimes you might think, oh, I'm pretty good at this stuff, so I'm going to get a job. But I hate to say this, but I hate to say this, but I have to tell you, sometimes, yeah, some people got that position because they knew some of the people in the company or some of the people in the industry. Okay? So that is why, if you have an opportunity in this area, you can go to ECGC. ECGC is East Coast Game Conference. Usually it happens either late March or mid-April in Raleigh, North Carolina. Okay? So try to, if you can, try to go there and try to get to know people. And there are many companies out there too. So they're usually they don't review your portfolio on site, but if you kind of get to know them in like a networking event, there's possibility that like you can kind of email them about your interest and your portfolio link. Okay. And obviously GDC is another one. And I mentioned that before, IGDA Scholar and IGDA, another good networking opportunity. And sometimes you can go to this weekend game jam and to get to know people. Okay? And well, I hate to say this, but I should tell you another example would be okay. Anyone know this guy, Chris Rand? Yeah, he actually was one of our professors here, and then he actually worked in he worked on EA and other game companies. He worked on Sims, and then in earlier of his career, he worked in one of these like the airplane jet pilot simulation. His game made a lot of money, and then he got kind of burned out, so he got teaching position here. He was teaching for maybe 5, 6 years, and then he eventually got this position and moved to California. Okay? And then actually, how he got this position was he went to this mix-up. He's a person he was a producer and programmer, and he basically did everything. And then eventually he did some AR/VR stuff. So he went to this AR/VR mix-up in DC like every month, and then eventually he presented his work in one of the AR/VR conference in California, and then he was asked to come to this company for interview, and they offer him a pretty good job in California. So it happens a lot. It happens a lot. So try to kind of be open-minded, okay? And then try to think about every single opportunity you get to know somebody, and try to get to know them, and because you don't know like what will happen. Okay? Then in my case, I grew up in LA, so I have many friends in California too. And then a few years ago, I visited my friend, and then I interviewed for a few positions in private sector, and the same reason. I wasn't really looking for any position, anything, but they knew my background, and then kind of asked me to kind of come in and then interview for positions. So it happens a lot in our industry. Okay, and then when you do this, okay, no signal, do not assume there will be always Wi-Fi. A backup using a mobile tablet presentation is the favorite format, better than phone. A laptop format is also acceptable, but it's not quite as slick. So again, in terms of presentation, try to think about the best way. And if you think about like a traditional way of portfolio presentation, we used to, if you're a graphic artist, we used to bring this portfolio briefcase along with this physical paper, artwork on the physical paper. But now, obviously, it's changed. Laptop is okay. Like tablet's pretty good. But then again, if you cannot afford it, I mean, laptop is still like decent ways of doing it. Another thing you have to think about though, okay, sometimes you might be able to use their conference room with the projector, so you can possibly see your work in big screen, but sometimes it might not be the case. So you always have to be ready for any format, or you have to check the what types of presentation uh, the equipment is available on that company, and have a backup handy in the form of PDF. Have a PDF of your resume too. Always present your resume in PDF format, especially in emails. And if possible, you can even customize to the employer's specific need. So if you decide to, eventually you have to put your resume on your website, okay? And then make sure you convert your file to PDF. Okay? So sometimes people post the Word file, and that's not good. JPEG, like image file, is not good either. Okay, PDF is the best option. Okay. And PDF, for your information, is portable document format, and most popular, and anybody can open it. So this is the best format. And one thing you have to think about is this one. If possible, you can even customize to the employer's specific needs. This one, I sometimes say you have to do this. Okay. In general, what's going to happen is you will have one resume, and you will use it for all the jobs you apply. But again, be open-minded. Sometimes, if like a big studio, AAA studios, or bigger than medium-sized company, if they want to hire like C++ programmer, okay, they want to see C++ on the top. Okay. They probably don't care whether you know Java or some other stuff. Okay. So sometimes, this is a very tricky, because if you are going to apply for a small company, small studio, okay, they might like a generalist. Okay. They want to hire a person who can do more than one thing. But let's say if you have like 3 years experience and 5 years experience, and you want to apply for AAA studios, bigger studio, okay, they want to hire a specialist, okay, with the skill set they're looking for. They really don't care what other things you can do. Okay. So here, I would say, what's going to happen? Like, to be frankly, to be honest with you, you will apply for many positions. I would say 50 or 60 positions. And then rule of thumb is you to get like I would say like 10% of the time you will hear from them. Okay. And less than 5% you to be invited for an interview. Okay. It's not because you're not that good, it's because there are so many people these days. Okay. If you think about this game industry, yes, game industry looks really good. We make a lot of money, and then there are many positions. But at the same time now, there are so many people who study game design and development in college. Okay? So here, even in our program, let's say we are graduating like every year, probably like right now, 50 to 60 people. Okay? All these people obviously apply for the position, like entry-level position. Then you have to think about like there are other graduates from other game program nearby, or sometimes like people literally try to find any position and apply. Okay? So don't get discouraged, but that's the reality of it. Okay? If you apply like 50 positions, you'll probably hear from like 5 to 6 companies. And if you're lucky, like you would get invited like 2 to 3 companies. And then you really have to perform well on that interview. Okay? But I have to tell you because yes, game design and game industry looks great, but as it looks great, everyone try to get a job in this industry, so it's going to be very competitive. Okay? So if possible, I would say you need to customize your resume or portfolio for that specific position. And then you might ask me how. I mean, it's totally up to you, but you have to think about your identity. Okay? I mean, who are you? Like, are you a graphic artist? Even so, are you a 3D modeler, or character designer, or concept artist, environment artist? Okay. So you will have that identity in your heart. You know what you want to do and who you want to be. But at the same time, you have to have that flexibility. Okay, I'm an environmental artist, but I can also do 3D modeling. Okay? And then you might end up applying for this 3D modeling position. And then obviously you want to say, oh, I am a 3D modeler who also has strengths in environmental art. You don't want to say, oh, I really want to be an environmental artist, but I couldn't find that position. I only saw this 3D modeling job, so I'm applying. Obviously, they're not going to look at your stuff seriously. Okay? So time to time, it requires you to customize some content for your resume and or your portfolio. And show and tell. During the interview, direct difficult question back to the examples in your portfolio. Use the examples to support your responses as you tell the story of your experience. Always conclude your answers by referring to the result and/or benefits of what you accomplished. So this one's kind of easy to say, but you need some practice. And usually we have a pre-internship, Game 489. You will learn some soft skill set, and then these things kind of require some practice. And maybe I'll try to bring some questions. I'll give you some list of questions you might see, but mainly you are going to deal with that in Game 489, pre-internship. Okay. And make the pitch. Samples and past projects are simply a jumping off point, helping you make a smooth transition into a conversation about what the company needs and how you may be able to help. So this is related to, you have to do little research on the company. Okay? So you basically want to make sure they know you have strong interest, so you actually studied games that company made. Okay? And leave on a high note. Be sure to thank the hiring manager for their time and leave behind your business card. It's also smart to send a thank you note showing appreciation for the hiring manager's time and reinforcing your key qualifications. A portfolio link on this is a good idea too. So this one is just like soft skill you have to think about. And another thing is some professionalism. Okay? You don't want to send like a fancy thank you note, but at least you want to email them and let them know you appreciate their time. Okay? That's very simple stuff. But another thing I have to think about though is in game industry. Okay, if you are invited for an interview, you might wonder like, what would be the dress code in our industry? Okay? So a lot of times in like other industry, like you probably wear suit and ties, but in our industry, usually that's like overdressing basically. So you don't want to dress overdress basically, but you don't want to just go in like your slippers or some other. So make sure you don't overdress, but dress something like a clean or some like a khakis and like a shirt so that you look kind of professional enough, but not too uptight. I guess that's like something. So sometimes in Game 489 pre-internship, usually it's taught by Professor Dr. Martin, and he asks students to do mock interview with professors or some people in industry, and then sometimes students kind of show up in ties and suit, and that might be too much. Okay? But in the same way, here, when you do email people, okay, you don't want to be too casual. Okay? You want to be professional enough, okay, so that like you can work. I mean, you are kind of grown up. What I mean by that is, I stretch this a lot in my other classes, and whenever you email your professors, don't like email them like without like referring them. Okay? And same thing here. Sometimes you want to email this hiring manager or someone at the company. You don't want to email them like, hey, thank you for like meeting with me last week. I'll see you later, bro. And well, obviously that's not good. So make sure you show some professionalism. Okay? You know, like especially it's important for you to give them like good impression. But believe me, like there are many people actually who don't know how to email properly. Okay? A lot of times they don't kind of use the right subject line, and then like they put some random stuff, and sometimes they don't even read your email if it looks kind of weird. So if you put something weird in your subject line, they might not read your email. And then obviously we want to see a little bit of professionalism, like Mr. Someone, okay? Not just hey. Okay? That's really important. And practice makes perfect. As you participate in more of these meetings, your delivery skills will improve, and so will your chance of landing that next position or project. So, mock interview, again, in Game 489, you will have that opportunity to do mock interview. Or especially that resume workshop with Kayla Harris. At the end, she reviewed many people's resume, and we're going to do that again. So you can bring your resume, and then she will actually tell you some modification or adjustment you have to make. Okay? So try to utilize that opportunities. And then we do have another resume workshop with someone at Career Services, and quite honestly, I don't think that helps that much, but you can go in and then listen to what they're saying. But usually, that Career Services, their workshop is more tailored to other positions, not necessarily game industry, so it's slightly different. And during spring semester, we usually bring someone from Bethesda and then do the same thing, like we do resume workshop again. So try to create your one-page resume, and then you will have many opportunities to get reviewed. Okay, I review your resume too, and so you will have many opportunities and do that. And especially for the mock interview, I will try to share some list of questions used in industry, so that like you can get the idea of what types of questions you'd expect at job interview. Okay, any question? All right. Basically, next week, I'm not going to be here, but I'm going to give you that few videos that I want you to watch. And I'm going to actually Chicago next week. I'm going to have a meeting with this company. CompTIA is a company that administer that certificate. Like if you are familiar with IT certificate, there's A plus certificate, and then this company, CompTIA, is a company that administer that A plus certificate. Then they want to actually create gamified, like a test for cybersecurity. So myself and Dr. Martin and Professor James Casey, we will meet with them in Chicago, and like we are going to try to get that contract. And if so, my company will hire. So make sure you have your resume ready. And then actually, yeah, my company will hire soon because I'm going to do a project with Inova Cancer Center. We're going to create like a 3D virtual reality, like customized surgery rehearsal, like a game stuff. So I said stuff because they want us to create a prototype, so that the doctors, like surgeons, can practice like this surgery before they actually really perform the surgery. So I will definitely need more 3D modelers and maybe some environmental artists, and then a few programmers. So I'll like share that the position description later, but make make your resume and portfolio ready. Even though it's not finished, it's not complete. I mean, it's important for you to think about how you are going to make that appeal. Another thing is, if I'm going to hire, like I say, like 3 people, maybe I'm going to get like 10 applications. Then you are competing with against other people, and you basically need to make your portfolio a little better than the person next to you, right? So there's competition. Okay, try to think about how you are going to make that appeal. Anyways, next week I'm not going to be here, so you can watch those videos online anywhere, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.